I like the lifestyle, and I like to wake up and go up in the morning and see the ocean or whatever we're doing. And I've been doing it for 20 years now.
Welcome to the Shipping Podcast, where I meet interesting maritime professionals sharing their passion for the shipping industry and their everyday job. I am your host. My name is Lena Gothberg. Welcome to episode 178 of the Shipping Podcast. Thank you for tuning in, whoever you are and wherever you are in the world. A few days ago, I went to a gathering with Vista Sweden. We took the boat to the shipping community outside Gothenburg called Knutsen. This is an island with approximately 1,400 inhabitants, where at least 8 ship owners together controls a fleet of 35 product tankers. And they are all meeting the challenges of climate change head-on. It's an exceptional place that you can visit during the Knutsen shipping meet. If you haven't attended, I strongly recommend you to sign up. Anyway, this is where I met Sofia Lundmark, Master Mariner at Knutsen, who gave a speech about an extraordinary voyage that she had done as the captain of a ship. Immediately, I knew that I wanted you to listen to Sofia and hear her career story. I hope you will enjoy listening to Sofia. If you like what you hear, give us a shout out on social media. Welcome to the Shipping Podcast. Could you please introduce yourself?
My name is Sofia Lundmark. I'm from Gothenburg, Sweden. I'm sailing as captain in Knutsen OAS, a Norwegian shuttle fleet company. Knutsen OAS has LNGs, product chemicals. It has plenty of shuttle tankers. It's Norwegian based. I'm mostly sailing in Brazil, but we also have in worldwide and North Sea.
How did you come in contact with shipping? Why did you want to become a master mariner?
Actually, from the beginning, I didn't. It was my mother who came with an article about that Göta Canal. These small cruise liners going in the canal between Gothenburg and Stockholm, they needed to hire people. And I was 23 at that time and unemployed. So I actually asked for a job as a cabin hostess. So I was cleaning cabins. It was a very interesting job. And then it didn't take a long time before I was standing in the dining room. And later on, I was actually working as a deck boy, whatever you would call it. And I was standing in the galley with like 50 plates in my hand. And I said, one day I'm going to drive this ship. And I know that the guide, she looked at me, it's like, yeah, right, little girl. And then 4 years later, I was driving the ship. I applied to the Master Mariner School, and I study shipping and logistics and Master Mariner, because as I am a woman, I didn't know if I would stay my whole career as on the ship or if I would go ashore. So I wanted to have a backup. And at Chalmers, I had the great opportunity to study with both bachelors at the same time. We were 20 people, and that was a test period. Unfortunately, they don't do that anymore. But I went at sea, and I just stayed there.
So you fell in love. You got the bug.
I loved it. Yes. I like the lifestyle. It is not work in that point of view. It is a lifestyle. And I like that with the routines. And I like that with the time at sea and with time at home, because I'm a little bit like a workaholic. Once I start, you kind of stop me and I can work myself to death. So for me, it's very good that I kind of bring the work home. I have in a way, though, because I also work for the office when I'm at home. Why not? But I like it that when I'm on board, I have my routines. I get my breakfast, lunch, and dinner in time, etc., etc. It's 2 minutes to my office, just down 4 decks. And I like the lifestyle, and I like to wake up and go up in the morning and see the ocean or whatever we're doing. And I've been doing it for 20 years now.
But there was a difference. I mean, the ships, the small boats that goes on the canal, that those are old ones, almost like a museum, I would say. Or
yeah, they are 100 years old.
So, where did you start when you started to be sailing on the oceans? What kind of ship was that?
First ship was Atlantic Companion, those old ACL ships. It doesn't exist anymore, but that was the first as a cadet. And then I went on scan lines, because in Sweden we need to try different cadet ships. And then I went to Tantank. And really early, I realized that oil was my kind of part where I wanted to be.
Your cup of tea, more or less.
Yeah, my cup of tea. I'm like a social loner person. I like to be alone a lot, but I'm very social with people when I choose to be social. So working with oil suit me much better than working with people. I like people, it's not that, but just not no money. So Tantank, I like that shipping industry very much, and Tantank was very nice to me, and it worked very fine. And I actually went out to Knutsen and more or less employed myself. So I went out with a CV at 10 o'clock. I didn't go back before 1600. I had lunch and coffee and buns and talking to everyone, and I stayed there for like 3 years. I became chief officer there, and they're very really nice blue and white vessels, and I liked it a lot. But after a while, I wanted to expand my views. So 2008, I went over to Knutsen OAS in Norway, and I haven't changed my mind since then. I've been there for some time, and it's also very good because they let me do a lot of things. So they understand that I am a little bit over energetic, and they let me, when I'm not sailing, I can do work for the office and I can improve things. So I like it.
So you went to Knutsen and you didn't know what ship owner you wanted to work for, or you just went around?
I knew. No, I went to Tantank directly. I knew instantly because I've been a cadet there, so it was very easy at that. And at that time, it was easy to get a job. It was very easy to get a job, and this has been going up and down since then. But now, when I have so much sailing time, and I also have DP license and Master Mariners, and I have many years in my back, then it's easy to get a job. But nowadays, when you go out from a seaman school, it's not as easy as it was 2005.
No, that goes up and down. I mean, I've been around for a while, and there is some sort of circularity in that. I mean, it goes up and down all the time, and I think it depends on us as an industry also to plan that we will also be needing seafarers in the future. We just can't have them now, and it takes even longer to build a master mariner than to build a ship.
Yes, but that is something which amazed me. The shipping industry is really poor in planning.
Yes, which is very strange.
Yes, so now they figure out, for example, a lot of shipping companies figure out that, we don't have any cadets. So we don't have any Scandinavian, youngster to come up, to grow up and become. I mean, if they only sit with Scandinavians, chief officer, chief engineers and masters, what is going to be the future?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this, yeah.
It's interesting. It's very interesting. Because, I think it's in a way every ship owner for himself or herself planning for as long as their view is. And that might be a little bit more than a quarter, I hope. But it's not a long-term view, which is probably why we have that problem with seafarers, a lack of them.
Yes, I would say so, because there is very poor planning, long-term view. It's like tomorrow and that's it.
But it's also got to do with, I think, demand and supply when it comes to trade and all of that, because, I mean, that is why we are doing the shipping.
Yes, and we don't have a crystal ball. If we had a crystal ball, it would be much easier for long-term planning.
Yeah. But what do you do in the office now then?
I do HSQE inspections.
What is that? Please tell me. I am a land crab.
I go in and I do inspections for ISM, ISPS, etc. Also,
so that is quality assurance, more or less.
Quality, yes, quality assurance. It's internal ISM, and also navigational audits, safety audits, a lot of that. And I change a lot of procedures. So when I'm out sailing, I see the procedures when they're wrong or right, and then I update them a lot. So I'm kind of, that is good with having one foot in each world, ashore and offshore. So that is a good way of getting everything up to date, and it is a lot. The ISM is constantly updating, and it's constantly changing the rules and regulations. And that's a funny thing, because before I started to help out the office as well, I always thought that the shipping industry was so far behind, and it is so far behind. It's sometimes still in the 18th century, like when I went to the Vasa Museum, and they had the same watch-keeping system as we do today. The program is not really fast. We a few years ago, we got rather fast internet on board. Well, when I started, we didn't have at all. We had one computer, and that's it. And we were happy if it was working. So I was thinking that it was going very slow, but now I see that the rules are changing rather fast, but it's difficult to cope with it, as so much to gather in and change and update. And of course, everything needs to be sent on hearing. 10 people need to approve, and then it needs to come in a certain time. So everything goes slow, and it goes slow for a reason, which took me some time to get, because when you're sailing, you don't see that. You don't see the machinery behind it. So it's interesting to see the machinery behind it, but still there are a lot of things you use more electronically things. We are still writing checklists on papers. I don't really understand that. I would love to have it all electronically. I would like to have iPads on board or something like that, where you fill in the checklist, where you fill in. So we don't need to print papers. We can sometimes have 30 tons of papers on board. And how good is that for the environment, And I understand some ports are really different, because Rio de Janeiro, for example, has something called a paperless system. We need to fill in everything in an Excel format. And then in the paperless system, we need to print it out.
Yeah.
And stamp and sign it. Oh. And then we need to send it away. And it's like 30 papers, and 2 copies of this, and 1 copy of that, and 3 copies of that. And some needs to be dated 2 days before, and some data some 1 day before. So it's no common sense in anything.
But I think I can see some developments on that in that area as well. And I think actually the pandemic has contributed to changes. At least when I speak to people in the Far East, they say, we need to change the system, because, we don't have the people in port. They are at home, they are sick. So we need to change. For instance, there is no one there with a cash bunch of money to pay people to do different stuff. There is no one there to sign the papers, because they are at home and they are ill. So they had to come up with new ideas, and they had to find an electronic system, which, finally we found something good with that pandemic then.
Yes, there's always something good with something bad. But it's, for example, we could have electronic signatures. Why does like a supervisor or something from port need to come on board? We can send over documents on email or talk on the radio before. So the mooring master or whoever it is, loading master, depending on, can actually sit on their side, and they can call on the radio, they can send an email, and you can have electronic signatures, so they don't need to come on board. Because in some ports, we have 10 persons coming on board, basically doing nothing. And then they come in the end signing the documents. Why can't they just check their parts every 4th hour, as they're going to do according to ISCOT, and sign it and send it over? So we can get contact like that. And over radio, you can do a lot of communication. You can talk a lot, and also the phone is working.
Yeah, I agree. There is a lot of things to do. But what are the biggest changes that you have seen during your 20 years in this industry?
Internet, much faster.
Yes.
And that helps because that means that today you can actually more or less Skype home and talk. You can FaceTime and talk to your colleges and boyfriend and everything at home. And I like that. That makes a huge difference. That is important social wise. The problem nowadays with the pandemic is that we can't have any shore leaves. And that is a really, really bad thing because it's stressful for others.
Mm.
We have so we can make teams with office, and that is also much better when you do teams. Now lately with the pandemic, we haven't been able to visit ships, and no one has been able to visit the ships. So then they install this with teams. Apart from the pandemic and the internet, it's going slow, but a lot of it is the same, unfortunately.
Oops.
Yeah.
Do you see more women? Do you see more female seafarers?
I've been sailing as the only woman for many, many years. I had a really funny second engineer female, also from Sweden. And that was a really good time because then we were two. And we could talk about, a little bit other things. We have some ships with Brazilians on. They do have women. Brazil is much better with female sailors than both Sweden and Norway. We have some Danish ships also. They have more women as well. For them, it's like natural in a different way. And especially in Brazil, they're promoting women also in the Navy as well as here. So that is really good. So we do have women, but it's only on some vessels due to the nationalities.
Mm.
And I hope it will improve in the future.
So do I. So what is it like to be the only woman on board?
I never had a problem with it.
Okay.
Yeah, because I shouldn't say that really, because I did have a problem with it a few times, but they have told me a few times that I, as a woman, should actually be at home making babies and standing by the kitchen. They regret saying that a lot.
Oh,
nowadays.
I see. How come?
No, I actually told them my point of view. And that was when I was in lower rank. In higher rank, they do respect my rank. And that is a good thing at sea, because people respect the rank. They don't see the woman. They actually call me sir quite a lot. They don't think about it, especially over when we talk on VHF with shore-based other vessels. It's like sir. And when the agent pick me up, when they don't know me, because the agents in Brazil, they know me. But if I come to other countries and they don't know me, they think I'm working in the galley.
Yeah. I hear that a lot from female seafarers. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes we have pranks with them, of course, and pretend that I do work in the galley. And that's just embarrassing for them. I often see that women become third mates and second mates, and then they stop sailing. And I think that's a shame. I would like to know why. I mean, often it is family reason, but sometimes it also is for if they get bullied or mean people around them. I remember I had a captain once. He said women should not be at sea, and he tried to stop me to come on board. That didn't work very well because the company didn't care. I had a chief officer once who was really horrible with me because I was a woman. That was in Tantank. He's no longer working in Tantank, I can say. So they did take my concerns seriously. I actually wanted to be transferred to another ship because it was so horrible, but they didn't transfer me.
Which was good. I mean,
yes.
You didn't do anything wrong.
He had to leave.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. And that is another reason for liking the shipping company, when they do like this. And also, of course, I'll be sexual harassed like most women, but also men can be sexual harassed in the ships. And that's something people seem to forget sometimes. And harassment can come in many forms.
Yes, of course. And I mean, those people, we have them on shore as well. But
we do, but I can't go home.
No, you can't go home. You can't leave the environment where this person is. But I mean, it should be zero tolerance against people who are like that, treating other people like that.
In the best of worlds, it should, yes.
Yeah, it's a question for the employers, and I'm not quite sure if they are aware of that sometimes.
No, because and that's a little bit the sailor's fault also. But we have a kind of a silence culture when it comes to this, and the problem is that if I highlight this and bring it forward, it shoots back on me.
Yeah.
And then I am the bad person, and etc. etc. I had captains when I was chief officer, which were horrible. And what could you do? Not much. But I solved it in different ways, but it's not so easy. And it's this culture, silence culture idea which we have, and it's a little bit like the military in a way. And that is difficult to change.
Yeah, but if we don't acknowledge the problem and talk about it, then we can never solve it. Then we can't do anything about it. And I mean, if you have the silence culture in the working environment, I think sometimes the silent culture also is prevailing when it comes to big ship owners. I mean, I speak to people, mostly women, who tells me their story about being sexual harassed or bullied or whatever. And then I meet the ship owners, because I meet them from time to time as well. And then I say, do you have any problems, or are you aware of the problems for female seafarers being bullied or sexual harassed? And then they say, well, that's probably in every other ship than ours, because we don't have those problems. And then I get a little bit like, okay, but I know these women works on your ships. No, you must be wrong. I mean, that's also a silent culture from the other side, that not in my backyard, sort of. But
this is a little bit like my children never do any mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that. But it's interesting, because I'm trying to get them to understand that, I mean, you are not doing anything wrong if you take this seriously. But if you don't take it seriously, then you're doing something wrong. So, yeah, I will continue to speak to the people I meet about this, but I think it needs to be a change in attitude and taken seriously. It's not the women's responsibility to change the equality in shipping. It's everyone's responsibility. That's my view, anyhow.
Yes, it is for sure. It is for sure. But the problem is that we need to change in a way so people dare to speak up. And sometimes I would like to have that maybe should start further away from the shipping companies. Maybe IMO or some bigger should come with a program against sexual harassment. And so people really understand what is right and what is wrong. For instance, once I didn't dare to pass one of my seniors in the stairs, because then they always grabbed my ass.
Mm.
So I walked around, took the elevator or anywhere else.
Mm. And also I hear the stories about women sitting next to the washing machine when they are washing their underwear, because they want to be sure no one nicks them and goes away with them.
I have plenty which been stolen. But the weird thing is that they were stolen when they were dirty.
well, I mean, oh my God, where are we? I get tired and I get upset at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, as you said before, when it comes to ISM and all of that, if there is someone big, like the IMO doing the big rules and regulations, it's over there. It's the same thing with those things. If you have some regulations or programs for sexual harassments or against sexual harassments and so on. Yeah. How long does it take until people takes it on board themselves, not just on board a ship?
I think it would take a rather long time, because if you look at ISO 45001, which a lot of shipping company are using or implemented, I would say, it is a lot about sexual harassment in there. And it is a lot of interesting things. So actually, we have implemented regarding sexual harassment in Knutsen, and which is very good. But as you say, it takes a long time before it's really understood. And then we have a lot of shipping company has over 2,000 procedures. So it's not easy to follow everything and so much, coming to you. So, and then you see it. And then where's the limit? Where's the limit on sexual harassment? And I always say that it is the way you interpret things. If I say, I don't like that you always put your hand on my shoulder, then that person has to stop. And if that person doesn't stop, it is actually harassment. But it's not always people understand that.
And then we got our good friend Cecilia Österman, who is talking about this as a safety question. Because if you are not feeling safe in your working environment, then maybe you're not at your best in your work. And then, there's so many things that could happen on board if you don't dare to speak up, or if you don't dare to stand close to someone, all of that. And I think she's right. And then we don't need any new regulation. We just need to uphold the regulations that are already there when it comes to safety culture.
Yes, because if you're always afraid, or especially afraid to be close to someone or something like that, then it's difficult. You're on the edge over time, and that does not work. I know in another shipping, not in Knutsen and not in Tantank, I would not say which one, but there was a girl who installed an extra lock because the captain has the tendency to go in with the main key evenings in the middle of night and go into a cabin, because that was his advantage as a captain.
Can I throw up?
A little bit.
Oh my
but
God.
There's a lot of stories like this which are really horrible. And I brought that up once, and they said, "Oh, she's most likely lying," and that makes you puke even more.
Yeah. I totally agree.
So it is important to get this. But anyway, I managed to survive 20 years, and nowadays life is much easier with my highest rank as a master.
I get that. How do you see the future for shipping then? What do you see in your crystal ball moving forward?
I will be in the shipping industry the rest of my life, I would guess, working with shipping. I would, however, I see that how much I can do on a ship, and I see how much I can do for the company. And actually, I don't think I will ever do that, but one of my dreams would be working in Sweden. We've been able to implement more for the whole shipping industry in Sweden. Maybe working for the government or some part where I can do a lot more for the whole industry instead of doing everything for just one ship or one fleet. So that would be a dream more than what I see in my crystal ball.
We could just join up together and do that. Let's just do it.
No, because it's interesting, because then you can do a lot more. I like training a lot, and I like to train people, and I always believe that competence is very important. I'm helping the competence department right now, and they're really, really good people. And I said, I like Richard Branson for Virgin a lot. And he said once that a man approached him and said, what if we train our people and they leave? And he answered, what if we don't and they stay? And that is something I bared in mind over time. We need to train people and put faith in people, educate them. So that is also how the new VIQ is coming out as well. It's more on knowledge than on paperwork. And I think that is the right way to go. And that is actually a future change, more knowledge than on paperwork, because we've been focusing too much on paperwork.
I totally agree. These weeks lately, we have been in the headlines again for fire on board a ship or the drunken sailor on that ship that sunk the other day. So
that's a tragedy. Yeah.
We are always in the headlines for bad things, and then it's quiet. Every other day, it's quiet
when we do something good.
Yeah. So how can we promote our industry?
I think one way of promoting our industry, especially when it comes to environmental, because put it like this, that the shipping industry and transporting goods is so much better, more environmental friendly than on a lorry, for example. I was thinking about that the other day. Why don't we just use small container ship to transfer things from Gothenburg and around up to the north in Finland instead of on the roads?
Well, there are some regulations and there are some taxes and there are some fees. And
always something.
Yeah. As I understand it. I'm not an expert, but I think there are some EU regulations around who can drive what ship and what size. And Sweden has actually asked for an exemption like 20 years ago or something. And we're still on that exemption. And that's why we can't do what they do in Europe.
No, because if you look at Holland, for example, they have a lot of small coasters, with sand or containers and et cetera. I always loved these little coasters. And they have a car on the back and they live on there and the whole family is running on this coaster. But if we could we have a lot of water around our country.
We have the longest coast in the European Union.
Yes. Why don't we just use it?
Well, now you're getting political, so...
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I know. But I see the good things in it. But that is unfortunately up for other people than me.
Yeah, I think so for me as well. So when you go on your ship, how long are you away from home?
Normally a contract is 6 weeks, but lately, like this year, I said to my boyfriend, okay, I will only be away 6 weeks. I came back 9 weeks later. And then I was supposed to be home 6 weeks. I was at home for 5. And then I went out 10 weeks. This is a little bit how it works. And suddenly your reliever get COVID and they need to find another reliever, or you self get COVID, or you end up in a hotel and the ship has to leave port and you have to wait, and et cetera, et cetera. I'll be lucky to be able to come on board, but not to go home that much this year. So, and I think this is the same for most seafarers. And lately signing on and signing off been a hazard. It's not been something enjoyable like before. Now it's only you have to go do this, you have to do that, and changing regulations. And
do you have a family? Do you have children?
I don't have children. I love children, but I never wanted to have my own. And that is also something people questioned a lot. But it's never been my cup of tea, if you say it like that. I have a fiancé. I mean, I am engaged, so I have a boyfriend, and he has children, and I like his children very much.
So now you're a bonus mother.
I'm a bonus mother. Yes, I am, and it's very nice.
So who would you be interested in listening to? Who do you think I should interview the next time?
Oh, I think you should interview my previous second engineer, Sofia Lundmark. She's one of the smartest person I know. She worked for the class association now. We work together in Knutsen, but now she works for Rina. She's funny, and she's really, really interesting. And she's very tall, 180.
Oh, I see.
No, I like her a lot, and she and her happy place is Svalbard.
I see. Yeah, that's interesting. Not a lot of people have been there, so that might be interesting.
No, I've been there with her.
Okay. So
New Year, it was dark 24/7.
I see. That sounds interesting.
It was interesting.
Thank you for taking the time to speak to me.
No problem.
And best of luck. I hope to see you soon again. I think
yes,
this was very interesting to talk to you. Thank you, Sofia. I think that our industry could benefit from having more Sofias around to get the change that we need done. As you said, since you are working both offshore and onshore, you have a unique perspective, and that is what we need. We need to share our knowledge and work together if we're going to solve the challenges ahead of us. Thank you for sharing your views with me and with the audience. As 2021 comes to an end, I am contemplating all the guests who have agreed to be guests on the Shipping Podcast this year. I am forever grateful for that. You are all fabulous, and I am glad to have been able to present you to the listeners of the Shipping Podcast. I'm also happy to announce that during 2021, we had the pleasure of listening to 19 female voices and 9 male voices, plus that extra special episode with the 2 captains, Captain Kate McHugh and Captain Thomas Lindegard Madsen. That was a treat. This means that since I started, I have released 178 episodes, and in 91 of them, there are women in the maritime industry who speaks up and get their voices heard. I think by now that I have shown my point that there are women in the maritime industry worth listening to and reading about. As I close this year, I wish you a happy new year. May it bring happiness and prosperity to you. So, until next year, from me to you, over and out. Thank you for listening to the Shipping Podcast. Don't forget to tell everyone that you meet that there is a Shipping Podcast available and that they should download it and listen to the maritime professionals who are sharing their passion for the shipping industry.